Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar hosted by the International Society for the Prevention of Child Abuse and Neglect. Today's webinar will introduce the new electronic versions of ISPCAN's Child Abuse Screening Tools, or ICAST, which allow you to collect child abuse data directly on your phone or tablet and to customize the tools for your situation. Our speaker, Logn Stec Hyder, along with former ISPCAN Councilor Dr. Desmond Runyan, created these templates with a software program called Epi Info, developed by the Centers for Disease Control in the US. Ms. Stec Hyder, a recent graduate of the Colorado School of Public Health, brought to this project a background in public health epidemiology, data management, and disease surveillance. Today, she will give an overview of ICAST, Epi Info, and the ICAST templates, and then show how they work in the live demonstration. Right now, I have everyone on mute to avoid background noise. Please enter any comments or questions you have in the chat box throughout the presentation, including requests for specific demonstrations. Our speaker will demonstrate the tool as requested and also answer any questions at the end as time permits. Logn, we thank you very much for being with us today and for your work making ICAST more accessible to child abuse and neglect professionals around the world. Now I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Heather. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yep.
All right, great. I will show my screen. And my slides are up. Can everybody see those?
Yes, they look great.
Perfect. All right. As Heather said, my name is Logn Stec Hyder, and I'm an epidemiologist, and I worked on this project with Dr. Runyan. And we took the ICAST forms for measuring child maltreatment and turned those into an electronic version, so that way you can collect data and compile data on your computer or mobile device rather than the old version of filling out Word document forms, keeping track of those, manually entering them into your computer, which opens you up to a bunch of data entry errors. So just to start off with an outline for today's presentation, I'll go over the project and a little bit about ICAST as well as the Epi Info software that we used, and then show you how to download the electronic version of ICAST off of the ISPCAN website, how to get those from your computer into the software, and I'll show you how to download Epi Info software as well. And then as time permits, I'll demo a few other things and speak towards the mobile version of Epi Info. So to start out with, this project was intended to take, as I said, the Word documents for each of the three versions of the ICAST. So there's one for parents to complete, one for children over 11 to complete, and then a retrospective version for teens or like over 17-year-olds to complete. And people in the past have used all of them or one or two. It's your choice based on your project. And then we also developed a user's guide, goes over in more detail what I'm going to talk about today. And then we also we also wanted to generate a data dictionary, and we didn't actually have to construct that because the software generates that for you. So I'll show you how to do that as well today. We also wanted to promote a uniform numbering system by putting these forms in an electronic format, because previously number one in one project in one country was not the same question that was being asked as number one in another project in another country or even in the same country. And by creating a more steadfast framework, we're hoping to make the instruments comparable across research sites. As far as future work with this project, could the mobile and web survey compatibility could be developed further. Right now, we just had time to take the Word documents, put it into an Epi Info compatible file, but it is more Windows desktop, laptop, computer based. And there's a few more tweaks that need to be done to really make it streamlined on a mobile device or a web survey. All right, so to start out with, I'll do a brief overview of the ICASTs. If you are familiar with the ICASTs or you use them yourself and you want to put in the chat box, like raise your hand or I say yes if you're familiar with them, I can skip this part and get into the demos if you desire. I don't know, Heather, can you see the chat boxes? Okay. Looks like we have one hand raised. So I'll do the overview since it doesn't look like there's too many. All right. So as far as what the ICASTs are, ISPCAN wanted a tool that would measure child discipline behaviors because abuse is different across cultures, or the definition is different across cultures, or maltreatment, and they wanted it to be reliable and valid and be flexible enough to be used across research sites in countries. And that resulted in a oops, sorry. Right. So that resulted in them using a Delphi method with over 100 reviewers, all subject matter experts, and then piloting them in different locations in different countries to validate them. And that resulted in the 3 forms that I'll show you today. Since that was done in 2004, they're on to the 3rd version because they've gone through multiple iterations just to update them and keep them relevant. But as I mentioned earlier, there's a form for parents to complete, a form for youth, and a form for children to complete. And all of those are we've adapted to Epi Info. And the sections within the Epi Info versions that I've created include questions on discipline, and that's the longest section, violence, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, and then other topics, as well as one of the forms requests feedback on the form itself. But essentially it's a survey of behaviors, and it can be customized based on what your project's definition of abuse or maltreatment is. And if you contact ISPCAN, the forms are available in multiple languages. And if they don't have a copy of the ICAST in the language you desire, they could probably connect you to somebody who is working on a project that might have a translated form, which is also a pitch to when you're using the ICAST, be sure that you notify ISPCAN and share your results, your publication with them, just so for networking purposes, they can keep track of who's using them and connect everyone. And then this is, as I said, ISPCAN keeps track of who's used them. So this is just to show you the extensive reach of ICAST. They've been used across the world, multiple research sites and publications. So that is a quick overview of the ICAST. And now I'll show you how to get them, the electronic version, off of the ISPCAN website. So if everybody's logged in or you're members to the ISPCAN website, they're free for download. If you're not a member, there is a fee, and so we can show you how to get that offline or after the webinar if you're not a member. And on their website, you'll find all 3 versions, so the parent, the child, and the retrospective in an electronic Epi Info file. There's a file for each one of them, and then you'll find the user's guide that we created, as well as the administration guide that was created when the ICASTs were developed back in 2004. And then you can download those to your computer and upload them into Epi Info. And I'll show you this whole process now. So if everybody would like to go to the ISPCAN website, you can follow along, or you can just watch my screen. I'm going to exit my slides and pull up the ISPCAN website. So this is the ISPCAN website. If you go from the home screen over to resources and tools, down to data collection tools there at the bottom, you can see it's highlighted. Under that, it should say ICAST, and it pulls up this page. And you'll see these directions here, the E version of ICAST tools now available. I've followed these multiple times and downloaded them. They are pretty straightforward. So you click on their Dropbox link, and this is where you'll see the electronic versions of each ICAST and the manual that we created for this project. Manual is PDF, and these ICASTs are in an Epi Info readable file. They're going to look funny. You're not going to be able to open them on your computer without Epi Info because they're a special file type. But you click on them, and yeah, they're not readable by your computer because they're special. But you hit direct download up here in the right corner, and you select where you want to save it on your computer. For the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to save it on my desktop. Remember where you save them for later when we want to go import them into the software itself. All right. Those are just different views. Okay, so I've downloaded one of the forms. I just want the child version for my purposes. And it'll show up in your folder on wherever you saved it. So I'll go back to my slides. That's how you do that portion for getting the ICAST. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, just follow the directions that ISPCAN has on their website once you log in. And I'll go back to presenter view here. Oh. Sorry, hope that doesn't make anybody dizzy going through the slides so fast. So now I'll move on to what Epi Info is. It's a free software developed by the CDC. It was originally intended, sorry, I see somebody has a chat open. Oh, okay. No problem there. Okay, so it was developed by the CDC for field epi, quick and dirty. They need 2x2 tables, and they need an easy way to make a questionnaire once they get to the field and collect data. So it's a one-stop shop for entering data, developing your forms for collecting data, visualizing it and mapping it, and then analyzing it. And they also, CDC provides a 24-hour help desk via email and phone, and they're very responsive and helpful. They can connect you to a lot of resources. And then there's also, they have an extensive FAQ and discussion forums. And Epi Info is available for Windows. That's your computer, your desktop, or your laptop. So that's like the main central version, and that's what they developed first. And since then, they've added a mobile version, so it's in an app. The app connects back to your computer. So if you're doing a big project, you can't necessarily use your mobile alone. You can collect data and analyze, do some rudimentary analysis on it. But if you have a bigger project, a lot more data, and you want to do more complicated analyses on it, you'll probably have to plug your phone into your computer to sync the data. And I'll show that later on. And then there's also a web cloud version, which is the newest version of Epi Info, and that is more internet-based. So it's like a network where you can give administrative privileges to multiple people who log on, so they can see the surveys and use the surveys that you create and collect data online and feed it back to your central account. And then as far as the pros and cons of Epi Info, the biggest limitation would be that it's not really Mac friendly. The mobile app is available for Apple phones. It's just slightly more limited than the Android version. But as far as the benefits of it, it's free, and It's offered in multiple languages, so if English isn't your first language, you can download it in whatever language you're comfortable in. And then you, as I said, you can build, collect, and analyze all in one place with this software. As far as system requirements, all this means is that as long as your computer's 5, 6 years, no older than 5 or 6 years old, you're probably good. You don't even have to think about your computer's requirements to get the software. If you do have an older computer, the CDC does have older versions of Epi Info available on their website that you can download, and that would be compatible with less modern specifications for a computer. So as far as how to get the Epi Info software, you would go to this link or Google download Epi Info CDC, and I will now show you how to download the software from the CDC's page. It's going to look like these steps here that under PC, and I'll walk you through those right now. So I'm going to exit my full screen mode and go to the CDC website. I pulled this up already, but like I said, just Google CDC Epi Info, and there will be a downloads tab, and it'll show this page here that is portrayed. There's 2 ways to download Epi Info. The more robust one is this download installer. The quick and easy way to do it is this zip file. You don't have to have IT permission or administrative control of your computer. So if it's a company computer that you have to always get IT permission to download software, depending on how strict they are, you can usually get this zip file without having to get their permission. So you click on it. It's going to ask you where you want to save it, save the zip file. I'm going to save it to the same spot that I saved my the ICAST forms that I got off of ISPCAN. And so a zip file, you can't use anything in it until you go view it and extract its contents. So I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to open its location. Okay, so see the zip file has been downloaded. If you right click on it, it'll say extract all. And what this will do is ask you to save it again. It's just going to duplicate the folder without the zipper on it. All right, so the form has been extracted. If you see, and so this is within the folder. You'll have this launch Epi Info icon. When you double click on that, that should open the software. And this is the main dashboard for Epi Info. Okay, so, and I am going to explain this create forms module here on the top left. But as you can see, you have the ability to visualize your data and analyze it. And there's 2 versions here. The classic is a little more rudimentary, and the visual and is more allows you to code. And it's based off of SQL code, I believe. So code what you want to do versus this visual dashboard is more point and click for how you want to analyze your data. And it's capable of doing regressions and 2x2 tables, things like that. And then you can also create maps if you have coordinate data, do some quick calculations for power calculations, or if you want to figure out your sample size needed. And this enter data mode is where you would go to, if you were in the field and interviewing somebody, you would go to this mode and select the form you wanted to use, and you could just start entering data as you're interviewing somebody. All right, so I will go back to these slides. And present. Awesome. So as I said, if I were to click on that create forms module, it would open a page that looks like this, where you have this menu toolbar at the top, very similar to a lot of other Windows programs. It's a point and click menu. So you can find saving and opening and several other things up here. And then the central white space is going to be what they call a canvas. And this is where you'll create your form or your survey. When you load in the ICAST files that we created, they will populate here if you drag them onto the screen, and I'll show you that in a minute. On this left-hand side, it's kind of like your navigating toolbar. They call it Project Explorer, but this is going to show you what project you have open and your survey, the survey and its pages that are open, as well as you'll see the field. It has a drop down underneath it, and that fields is synonymous to variables, so you can see the types of variables you can add to your canvas here and just drag them from this left side onto your canvas to add a question of that variable type. So that would be like a text box or a date box, or if you want them to do a radio button, like a single choice, single multiple choice. And then you'll also see this templates option and it has a drop down with this plus. And that, once we get the ICAST files into Epi Info, that's where you'll find them, and you will drag them from here, this left side, onto your canvas, and it'll auto populate. And basically it'll create the form for you. So you might be wondering, I was saying projects and forms and all these things. So the hierarchy of Epi Info is that you create a project, and so you create a project for like your research site, and then within that project you can have multiple forms. So for example, for this project I called it ICAST conversion, and then I created a form for each of the 3 versions. So there's a form for the P, there's a form for the R, and there's a form for the C. And then within each of those forms there's multiple pages. And so like the discipline section runs from page 1 through 13 on one of the forms. And then fields is synonymous with variables, and that's what you have on your pages. So as I mentioned, I'm going to show you how to get the ICAST files that we downloaded from ISPCAN into Epi Info. This is the list of directions off of the ISPCAN website. We've already gone through 1 through 3. So now I'll show you 4 through 6. All right. This is what it's going to look like. I'm going to exit out of slides to actually show you this live. Okay, we've done everything on the internet. I am going to pull open my so this is the Epi Info I already had open. This is what the ICAST forms actually look like. So once we get the template into Epi Info, this is what it's going to look like. This is the C version. And this is the enter data mode. This isn't the create forms mode. So this is, I could start interviewing and entering data with this right now. All right, so this is the main dashboard of Epi Info. I'm going to go to create forms. That's that top left one. It's going to open a blank slate here. I'm going to hit new project on the top left. It's going to ask me what I want to call it and where I want to save it. I'm going to call it ICAST demo here just for the purposes of this. Oops. Oh, and then Epi Info is also finicky about symbols and spaces that when you're creating variable names and form names and project names, but it'll always warn you. So as it thinks about it, there we go. This is what a blank project looks like. As I mentioned, over here on the left-hand side, you'll see all the types of variables that you can add to your canvas. I'm going to minimize that because we're going to add a template. And so you'll see under templates, it shows there's templates for fields, pages, and projects. So on the top left, you're going to go to File, Get Template. Now it's going to show you, it's going to ask you where on your computer you're going to get the template files from, and you are going to go to the place that you saved those files that you downloaded off of ISPCAN. Mine I put on my desktop under demo, and you'll see this XML file. that is the template file. That's the same one we got from the ISPCAN website. Open. And that should be under forms. On the left-hand side, you'll see templates. Under templates, there'll be forms. When you click on forms, it should show the file you just brought in. So I brought in the ICAST-C. Now, to get that onto your Canvas, because right now you just have a blank survey, you are gonna click, hold down, and drag it over onto your Canvas. And now Epi Info is gonna think for a few minutes because these are fairly large files. Because the largest ICAST form is about 20 pages long. And so there's multiple variables, like 70 to 80, I think, if I remember correctly. So it's going to take a little while to populate, but no more than 5 minutes. So go get a cup of tea or we'll move on to the next slide. All right. So this is what I just showed you, the file get template. This is the same thing I just went through in the demo. Of note here is if you, as you're playing around with the Epi Info software, I know I'm going through it quickly right now, but as you play around with it, since it's menu driven, it'll become natural, the process of finding things, but when in doubt, right click, and that'll give you an options menu that usually contains the function that you're trying to do. So once you get your ICAST loaded into the ICAST electronic version, the template loaded into Epi Info, and it's populated your Canvas, like I just showed you, there's a few things that you can do and a few things that we ask that you don't do. For the sake of preserving that uniform numbering that's uniform or that's comparable across sites, we ask that you don't replace existing questions with another question, or change the numbering is essentially what I'm trying to say. So if you drop question number 1 and add a question of your own, it's totally fine to add a question, but don't name it number 1. You can add it to the end or somewhere else, but don't label it number 1. That way, number 1 stays consistent across research sites and can compare data across sites because they're asking the same questions for the same number. And we ask that you share your publications or your experiences or if you tweak the ICAST form, share it with ISPCAN just for cataloging and networking purposes. They're your go-to for everything ICAST. And they're good at connecting you to resources. But you're welcome to tweak terminology based on what's culturally appropriate for your research site. I know some sites drop the sexual abuse questions because that's just not kosher to ask about, which is fine, that's your choice. As well as if there are a few questions in the ICAST template that the drop-down box is currently empty because you need to add the religions and races, ethnicities that are relevant or to your research site. So there's pieces that you need to fill in in the variable section before you can start using it, just because races and religion and different demographic aspects are different across sites, and so we wanted to give you that flexibility. Another thing was the grades for school. Different countries name their grade levels differently. And then you're welcome to remove questions, as I said, just don't change the numbering. And you're also welcome to add questions. We've left spaces after each section to add your own questions. Alternatively, you can insert your own page wherever you want in the form and add a list of questions. This is just a quick note on designing an Epi Info, regardless if you're working with ICAST or not. When you're designing a survey in Epi Info, think about what's going to be the best logically when you're sitting there with an iPad in front of a interviewee collecting data from them. So this top graphic was the scale that was on the Word document version of the ICAST, so the original. And I had to change it into a drop-down menu because it would have just been too much of a hassle to have that type of scale in an electronic form. All right, so the last thing I'm going to demonstrate here in Epi Info is the how to generate a data dictionary. And essentially, a data dictionary tells you what variables you have in your survey, what they're called, what type they are. So that's like the radio buttons or a comment, a box or a date value or a yes, no. And then what page they're located on, and then a few other metadata points about them. And in Epi Info, you can save this as an Excel file. And so you can add columns to it yourself. So to generate this, I'll show you on Epi Info here. So this what I just pulled up is the template that I drug in that we were waiting for it to populate. It's populated. This is what it looks like for ICAST-C. So you'll see that I'm highlighting the different variables or fields here. If I were to click on those, I can change their aspects. So if I wanted to change how many years of schooling do you have, I will right click on it and hit properties. And here you can, under data source, these ... that's how you change the response options. So if schooling in your area goes 1 through 12 or K through 12, you can put that in here. Or if there's different names for it, if you wanted to put in primary, secondary, etc., you could put that in here. And you can also change how the question's worded if schooling is if you use a different colloquial term for schooling. Okay, so I was going to show you how to do the data dictionary. So you go to the top of Epi Info up here to your menu bar, and you go to Tools, which is the second to last option. When you click on Tools, the first option on the menu will be Data Dictionary. When you click on that, it'll automatically show you the data dictionary for the form that you're working in. So if you can see this, it'll show you so for example, B1 is on page 1. It's the 9th variable. That's what tab means. It's the 9th variable on the page. It's an option variable. It's numeric, things like that. If you want to get this into a Excel file, click on View/Print as web page. That's going to open up a web page. But if you, on the top right of your browser, and unfortunately my webinar, there we go. So on your options, up on the top right of your web browser, should say print. And you change it to a PDF, you save it as a PDF, and you can have that offline on your computer. And I did say I was going to show you how to do it as an Excel file, and I'm not seeing that option right now. So if you want to know how to do that, follow up with me offline after the webinar, or else I can direct you to the spot on the Epi Info help site for that. All right, so that was the data dictionary. That was a very fast blow through, I know, of a new software. Like I said, if you play around with it, you'll gradually become more comfortable with it and it'll become more intuitive. And if you Google what you need to know, there are a lot of discussion boards out there and help on the CDC website, as well as you're welcome to follow up with ISPCAN or myself for your questions. But I know you can't learn a software in an hour usually, so I understand if anybody's frustrated out there that this has been fast. All right, so as far as the mobile and web versions of Epi Info, I just went through the Windows version. That's what I just demoed on. And so that's like a central computer. That's Epi Info on a central computer, laptop or desktop. As far as mobile and web, I'll start with the mobile application of Epi Info. There's an Android version and an Apple version. The Apple version is slightly more limited because they're just breaking into the Apple market. As I said, Epi Info isn't very Mac friendly. But how you would get your ICAST forms from your central computer onto your mobile device would be to connect your mobile device via USB or else email that XML file that we got from ISPCAN's website to the email that's available on your phone. You'll save it to your phone, and then the Epi Info app will detect it on your phone. And then these are a couple of the other specs, compliments of the CDC website about each of the Android and Apple versions of the app. So as far as getting a survey onto your phone because you want to go out into the field and use your phone to collect data from somebody, these are the steps that, oh, I'm not even in presenter mode, I'm sorry. These are the steps that you would use. So you would, as I said, you could either connect your phone, if you're using Android, connect it via USB to your computer. Alternatively, when it's connected via USB, you can drag and drop the file, whereas the first point is menu driven to get the form onto your device. And then the third option, and this is the option that also works with Apple, is to email that XML Epi Info file, the ICAST template that we got off the ISPCAN website, to an email as an email attachment, and then save that attachment to your device. If you want to see that demo, that basically a similar format to what I just demoed, but for this specific task, this is the link to the CDC Epi Info YouTube channel, and they have a nice video about how to do that. As far as once you get your ICAST form onto your mobile device and you open the Epi Info app, it's going to look like this left screenshot. So there will be three options: collect data, the stat calc is your power analysis and or your power calculation or your sample size calculator, and then analyze data, which allows you to do some basic things like frequency, means, 2x2 tables. It doesn't let you get as complicated as a regression, but it's a good starting place for if you're trying to do simple stuff in the field. All right. And then from there, you'll hit collect data, and it'll show you all the forms available on your device. And so that's where ICAST should pop up if it senses that file and on your device. And the first three here that are shown in this screenshot are default. They come with the app for you to play around with. And so I selected the sample interview mode because that was the prettiest to see. And that form will look like this far right screenshot when you're entering data into it. So it'll usually give you the questions one at a time because you're on such a narrow screen. As you're entering data, you hit save up in that top right corner to save the record. If you don't save the record, you'll lose that data that you just collected. All right, so once you've collected data in that fashion, how do you get it back to that central computer because you want to analyze it in R or SAS or SPSS, like a more complicated analysis, or join it with data you've collected on a different device? So how to go about doing that is that for the phone, you have to open Epi Info software on the phone itself, go to collect data, and you'll see after you've collected multiple records, so multiple people that you've interviewed, they'll show record 1, record 2, record 3, and there'll be an option to create to sync your records. And so you'll hit create sync file. From there, you'll connect the device to your computer, so that USB cable, and you'll open the Epi Info on your desktop computer, your central computer, and go to file, that's that top left drop down menu, import data from Android device. And then you'll show your computer where that Epi Info file is located on your phone. For Apple users, since you can't necessarily connect, so you may not be able to connect your device via cord to your computer, I believe there's an option to mail or email your data pack, like the collected data package it up and email it to yourself. And again, there's the CDC YouTube channel has a video about doing this. So that was a quick run through of the mobile version of Epi Info, and I'm just going to briefly touch on the web cloud version. This is the newest version, and I don't have a lot of experience with this one because this project didn't expand that far. But essentially, there's 3 components to the web cloud version of Epi Info. The first one is for distribution and download of surveys. So creating them and getting them out to the people that you want to use them, your interviewers. And then the second and third one go together to help you with data collection and management and then analysis of the data. And then to wrap up this piece, for both the web survey and the mobile application, there are certain variable types that aren't compatible with those. And when I started off this presentation, I mentioned that the future work for this project would be to ensure that the ICAST templates Epi Info templates are mobile compatible, and that would entail just going through and making sure that all your variable types are the ones on this list that are compatible with the mobile app. Because if there's a variable that's not compatible and you send the file to your mobile device, it won't open, which is unfortunate, especially if you're going into the field. So that was a quick blow through of Epi Info and the ICAST, the electronic versions of the ICAST that we created for that software. If you're able to unmute yourselves or put in the chat box any questions you might have, or if there's something you'd like me to show on the CDC website or in Epi Info, I'm willing to do that now.
Thank you so much, Logan. We had one question come in, a couple actually. So if someone has a survey they want to create in Epi Info that is different from ICAST, for example, someone's asking about creating a human trafficking survey for a different project, is that possible?
Yes, that is possible. So I will go into Epi Info here and show you how to do that. So when you open Epi Info, it'll pop up this dashboard. Go into Create Forms, and you'll create a new project up here on the left. In that project, you'll name human trafficking or whatever your non-ICAST project is. And then it'll show you that blank canvas, and you can start adding variables to that canvas related to your project. So I'll do that quickly. We'll just say human trafficking. And I'm just going to name the form question since this was related to a question. Okay. It's going to save it to my computer eventually. All right. So in a new project, you'll have a blank canvas. This is where you would create your human trafficking form. And to do that, over here on the left, you have all these types of fields. Say I want to put in the date on every survey. For yours, you'll drag and drop that, and it'll ask you, okay, what's your question? Interview date is what I'm going to call this variable, and this is the variable. This is how it'll show in the data dictionary, this field name. And there's other options. You can make this required if you need the date, if the date is essential to your project. And so that'll show up on your canvas, and you hover over it so that both the title and the box are in blue. And when you click down, you can move that to wherever you want it on your canvas. Say I want the date in the top left corner, I'll put it up there, and it should snap to the grid lines. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. We have a couple others. Another participant is asking how Epi Info differs from other survey software, if it has benefits that others don't. And also the same person wants to know how the data or where the data is stored.
Okay. So as far as how it differs, The main points would be that it's free, and there's a lot of there's a large help community around it, and it's quick to get, quick to access, quick to download, 5 minutes. And then as far as where the data is stored, if you're using a mobile device, the data is stored on your mobile device until you do that sync process back to your central computer, or you package it up on your phone and email it if you're using an Apple phone. And then on your computer, it is stored in the same place that you saved your project. What I mean by that is in Epi Info, when you hit new project, you get this and see this location. This is the spot on your computer that Epi Info is going to save the file for your survey, and then any data files that are collected with that survey. Did that answer all the points of that question?
I think so, yes, thank you. Also, someone else is asking if multiple researchers in different locations working on one study can load data into the same place?
Yes. So if you're interested in doing that, I would suggest looking at that web cloud version of Epi Info. Granted, that requires internet. If you don't want to do that version, then as long as you have a central computer and you can do multiple devices, each of those researchers could have a device, like have a phone or a tablet, and go out and collect data. And then when they come back to the office a week later or day later, they can plug that device into the central computer and upload all their data. And each one of them can do that. So you have all their data within the central computer in your Epi Info file there.
Great. I think you may have touched on this. A participant is asking if you can import the file in Excel or SPSS to run analytics.
Yes, you can. I don't have any data in my version of Epi Info here that I can show you how to do that, demo it, but you are able to export the data into like a CSV or Excel file so that you can use it in other analytic software like SAS or R, SPSS.
Okay, great. And then I think one final question. So are there translated versions of the tool available? How does it work with the different languages?
So there are translated versions of the Epi Info software available on the CDC website. I'm showing a resource page right now on my slides, but this same cdc.gov Epi Info, there will be a tab that says languages, I believe, or downloads. And if you scroll to the bottom of the page, it'll say get Epi Info in other languages. And there's 4 or 5 other languages that it's available in. As far as the ICASTs, since I'm unfortunately not proficient in other languages, I only translated the Word documents, the ICAST Word documents into English Epi Info templates. However, there are Word documents of the ICAST in a handful of other languages that I believe are available through ISPCAN. And so if you're feeling comfortable with Epi Info, you can design those yourself based on the Word document ICASTs in Epi Info.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Logan, for sharing this information with us. That's all the time that Logan has for us today. But to let everyone know, there will be a recording of this webinar and a PDF version of the slides available on our website within 24 hours. And if you have questions that she was unable to answer, we will definitely put you in touch with her. Just contact resources@ispan.org and we can do that. We also encourage all of you to become members, if you're not, of ISPCAN, so that we can continue having informational webinars like these in the future. And if you are interested in presenting or have ideas for topics for our webinar series, please contact us also at resources@ispan.org. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us today, and we hope you have a good day or night, depending on where you are. Thank you, and thank you, Logan.
Thank you, Heather.